Wake up for a moment and look around. The world has never been louder. News feeds never stop. Notifications fight for your attention. Opinions pile up before you've even finished your morning coffee. And in all this noise, something vital is slipping away. The ability to think clearly. Critical thinking used to be a survival skill. It meant questioning, pausing, weighing evidence before making a decision. Now it feels like a lost art. The pace of modern life rewards reactions, not reflections. You're pushed to respond instantly to form an opinion before you even understand the question. Why? Because speed wins. The internet doesn't wait for thoughtful voices. It rewards whoever shouts first, not whoever thinks best. Social media thrives on outrage, not on nuance. And when everything becomes a performance of certainty, doubt is treated like weakness. And doubt, the ability to say "I'm not sure," is the very start of wisdom. Think of how information reaches you today. You scroll, you click, you skim. Headlines scream. Videos autoplay. Algorithms predict what will hold your gaze. It feels like choice, but it's not. The system is designed to feed you more of what you already agree with. Over time, you stop noticing the boundaries of the bubble around you. You begin to mistake repetition for truth. That doesn't happen because you are lazy or unintelligent. It happens because your brain is human. When overwhelmed, it seeks shortcuts, looks to peers, to likes, to signals of popularity. A post with 1 million views feels more real than a quiet, nuanced explanation. This is not logic, it's instinct. But instinct is exactly what can be exploited. Here's the uncomfortable part. The world is not neutral. Every platform, every feed, every system around you has incentives. Some want your clicks, some want your money, some want your loyalty. And the easiest way to get those things is not through reason. Outrage spreads faster than facts. Certainty feels safer than complexity. Anger binds groups together more quickly than understanding ever could, so you adapt. You scroll faster, you read less, you trust surface signals. Maybe without noticing, you start repeating what sounds familiar, because familiar feels safe. And slowly, almost invisibly, the skill of thinking for yourself fades into the background. But ask yourself this: when was the last time you let an idea really sit with you? When was the last time you read something all the way through without distraction? When was the last time you paused before reacting? Those moments are rare now because you lack discipline, but because the world is designed to keep them rare. And yet losing those habits has consequences. Without them, you stop questioning. Without questioning, you become easier to persuade. And when entire populations stop questioning, societies drift toward conformity. Not because anyone forces obedience, but because thinking feels harder than agreeing. That is the danger unfolding today. Not a collapse of intelligence, but a quiet surrender of independence. A slow trade of depth for speed, of curiosity for comfort. And unless you notice it, you might already be caught inside it. Think back to school for a moment. Were you really taught how to think or just what to remember? For many, education was less about curiosity and more about conformity. You learned how to give the right answer, not how to ask the right question. That pattern doesn't vanish after graduation. It follows you into your career, into your relationships, even into the way you consume news. The message is clear. Don't slow down, don't challenge, just keep moving. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a design. Modern institutions, from schools to workplaces to digital platforms, are built for efficiency. Originality takes time. Questioning creates friction. Reflection slows the system down. So obedience is rewarded, compliance is celebrated, and curiosity often punished. The teacher John Taylor Gatto once argued that mass education wasn't created to produce independent thinkers, but obedient workers. That insight may sting, but look around. Children are tested on memorization, not exploration. Adults are evaluated on loyalty, not creativity. The cycle continues until questioning feels dangerous, even antisocial. You may start to silence your doubts, not because you've resolved them, but because you fear what speaking them might cost. And silence has a cost of its own. When you choose not to ask questions, you begin to absorb answers from others without resistance. Over time, that silence turns into complicity. The German psychologist Erich Fromm called this the escape from freedom. The way many prefer surrendering their independence of thought rather than carrying the burden of responsibility it brings. Because freedom to think also means the burden of choice. And choice is terrifying when you live in a culture that values certainty above all. Technology amplifies this. Social media, once imagined as a space for connection, has become a theater of endless reaction. Outrage, humor, sarcasm, instant responses delivered at lightning speed. These platforms don't nurture reflection. They suffocate it. You are pushed to comment, to share, to declare your stance before you've even processed the story. The slower voice, the one that says, "Let me think," is drowned out. Marshall McLuhan once said, "The medium is the message." In other words, the way you receive information shapes the way you think. Today's mediums encourage quick takes, not careful thought. Viral posts matter more than verified truths. In that environment, truth itself becomes fragile. What's believed is not always what's proven, it's what spreads. And so you face a paradox. You have access to more information than any generation in history. Yet you often feel less certain, more confused, more anxious. That's not because you lack intelligence. It's because information without reflection becomes noise. And in a storm of noise, even lies can feel like facts. Think about the last time you scrolled for hours. How many posts did you actually reflect on? How many left you changed? And how many were forgotten minutes later? The cycle isn't designed to make you wiser. It's designed to keep you scrolling. And every moment spent scrolling is a moment not spent thinking. The real danger here isn't stupidity. It's mental laziness disguised as participation. When a society trades thinking for reacting, it loses more than clarity, it loses resilience. A population that doesn't question is easy to steer, it's easy to divide, it's easy to sell to. And when that happens at scale, the outcome is not just personal confusion, it's collective vulnerability. So ask yourself again, who benefits when you don't think deeply? Who profits when you accept without questioning? Whose power grows when silence feels safer than truth? There's another layer to this story. It isn't just about technology or education or politics. It's about psychology, your own mind. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman described two modes of thinking, fast and slow. Fast thinking is instinctive, emotional, automatic. Slow thinking is deliberate, careful, reflective. In today's world, most people live almost entirely in fast mode. The environment doesn't give you the time or the patience to switch into slow. Fast thinking is efficient, helps you make quick judgments, survive emergencies, and conserve energy. But it's also easy to exploit. Politicians, marketers, influencers, many know how to trigger emotional responses that bypass reflection. They package complex issues into simple binaries. They repeat slogans until they feel like truths. They tap into fear, pride, anger, and once an idea feels true, your brain begins to defend it heaven against evidence. That's confirmation bias, one of the strongest cognitive traps you'll ever face. The danger grows when groups fall into the same trap together. Social psychologist Irving Janis called it groupthink, the way people abandon their doubts to protect unity. It happens in boardrooms, in governments, and online communities. A single dissenting voice could prevent disaster, but too often, no one dares to speak. The group chooses harmony over truth. When that happens, even intelligent, well-meaning people can make catastrophic decisions. History is filled with individuals who refuse to conform. Galileo, Darwin, Martin Luther King Jr., each was ridiculed, condemned, or silenced for daring to think differently. But their courage reshaped the world. Critical thinking has never been comfortable. It has always been a form of rebellion. And in societies that punish dissent, the cost can be isolation, ridicule, even danger. Yet the reward is clarity. Look closer at the present. Why do so many feel restless, anxious, unfulfilled, despite all the progress, all the technology, all the comforts? Because information is not wisdom. Distraction is not meaning. And without the discipline of reflection, you drift. You lose connection to your own voice. You outsource your mind to algorithms, headlines, trends. The solution isn't to consume less information, it's to engage with it differently. It begins with awareness. Notice the moment when you're reacting instead of thinking. Notice when you're seeking validation instead of truth. Practice metacognition, the art of thinking about your thinking. Ask, what's shaping my opinion right now? Am I reacting out of fear, pride, or loyalty to a tribe? Or am I seeking to understand? Real thinking also means tolerating discomfort. It means admitting you don't know. It means holding two opposing ideas in tension without rushing to choose sides. That isn't weakness, it's strength. Because wisdom grows not from certainty, but from humility. The philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti once said, "To understand the immeasurable, the mind must be extraordinarily quiet still." That stillness is rare today, but it is also the soil in which depth is born. Critical thinking is not a technique, it's a discipline. It requires books, not just headlines. Listening, not just speaking. Curiosity, not just certainty. And here's the hardest truth. Critical thinking is disappearing, not because people are incapable, but because many are afraid of what it might reveal. To question deeply is to risk everything that feels safe. Your identity, your beliefs, your tribe. In a world where opinions have become sacred, challenging an idea feels like attacking a person. But that is the illusion. You are not your ideology. You are not your party, your religion, your feed. You are more than the ideas you currently hold. To think critically is to embrace that freedom. It is, at its core, an act of courage. Courage to step outside the noise. Courage to face uncertainty. Courage to live with eyes open even when the truth stings. Because when you begin to think for yourself, you notice the patterns. You see the manipulation, hear the difference between propaganda and perspective, between connection and performance. And once you see, you cannot unsee. The world doesn't need louder voices. It doesn't need sharper insults or quicker reactions. It needs deeper minds willing to sit in complexity, to wrestle with ambiguity, to seek truth over comfort. That begins with you. Every time you pause, instead of react, you reclaim power. Every time you ask a question, instead of parroting an answer, you push back against the tide. Every moment you choose clarity over comfort, you become a light in the noise. That light doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be famous. It just needs to be real. Because critical thinking spreads the same way conformity does, person to person, conversation to conversation, question to question. A quiet revolution built not on noise, but on awareness. So as you step away from this message, carry one thought with you. Thinking is not just an intellectual act. It's a moral responsibility. And in a world of distraction, it might be the most radical act of freedom you can choose. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the psychology of relationships, awareness, and the quiet power of reflection. Sometimes the smallest shift in thought can change everything.